So I've said this before that God put women here to test men, and when we fail that test, he left them here to punish us. Men are being arrested for not giving women money. This is actually happening right now. I've talked about the notion that just because when you look overseas, you see the Filipinas and women in other countries, don't think because, they're fit, they're feminine and friendly, doesn't mean they're better than other women. No matter where you go, female nature will exist and men will be taken advantage of. Let's just go ahead and jump right into the video.
Hi folks, the Filipino P here, and as promised, I'm here with my good old friend, Attorney Gracie. Welcome back.
Thanks, P. Thanks for having me here in flesh now.
I know, you've been very busy and you've been traveling a lot, and the last time we spoke, it's via video chat.
Correct, yes.
So folks, aside from celebrating Gracie's return, we're going to be talking about important laws that you need to know. So, stay tuned. All right, Gracie, welcome back to my studio.
Yay.
Cheers!
Cheers!
Well, the last time we had wine, we were using cups.
Cups. I remember that one.
Now I upgraded.
Chilled red wine in a cup. That's what we had.
Yeah, but at least I upgraded. I bought the proper glass. Okay, so the first thing we have to talk about, Gracie, is this law. I was so surprised because knowing we Filipinos, we're very family oriented. We always wanted to give back to the family.
Correct.
But I heard that there's a specific law that we need to support our parents.
So basically, the cultural thing supporting our parents is something enshrined in our civil code.
Right.
Yeah. Specifically, Article 195 of our civil code. Article 195 enumerates the people who are obliged to support each other.
Okay.
One of which is the parents and their legitimate children and the legitimate children of those children. Basically, parents and children has to support each other. It's a mutual obligation.
Okay.
So if you see it the way that when the parents are at the time of their lives that they need the support from their children who are already at the time of their lives capable to provide support, then the parents can invoke support from their children.
Okay, so if you're a working adult now and your parents say, hey, you need to support us back because we need this amount of money every month, if I refuse to give that to them, will I be sued? Well, can my parents sue me for that?
The answer for that one is yes. Your parents can file a case for support in court invoking this provision of our laws.
Do they know that there's a law like
I don't know.
Is it known? I mean, well, ignorance.
Now they know.
Yeah, okay.
Your parents now knows about it.
I'll be in trouble. So really, it is a law. So
it is part of our civil code.
So
it's part of our laws.
Okay.
So basic laws. So under our civil code, 195 enumerates those people who are obliged to support each other, and 194, Article 194, define what the term support means.
Okay.
So basically, the term support comprises everything indispensable for sustenance, for dwelling, for clothing, for medical attendance, education, transportation, and everything else in keeping with the financial capacity of the family.
How can they determine how much I should give back to my parents?
First of all, it would depend on the needs of your parents.
Oh, okay.
And second, it would also depend on your capacity to provide, at what certain level you can provide the support.
Who decides? The judge?
Basically, if it's not being agreed by the parties, not being agreed by you and your parents, then if it goes to court, then the judge can decide for you.
Okay, this amount of money.
Yeah.
P, you have to, oh my.
And please take note, it's not limited only to parents. It's brothers and sisters are also covered under this provision.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, actually it is. Like, number 5 in the enumeration of those who are obliged to support covers legitimate brothers and sisters, whether of full blood or half blood.
Oh, okay.
So this is with respect usually with education.
With education.
Education.
So wait. So my brothers can ask support from me for their education,
Correct, yes.
and I'm obliged. Why?
If you have the capacity to provide to support their obligation, then yes, you can be compelled by the court to provide that thing to them, because it is considered, education here is considered indispensable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there's actually a law that you have to give support to your family, and not only your parents, also your brothers, and sisters.
Yeah.
Okay. So only the things that they need, right?
Yeah, those are those things that are indispensable in their lives.
So what about if the Filipina is married to a foreigner? Obviously, her capacity to support increases. So what happens now? Is the foreigner also liable to support the family? Or, combined with their, net worth?
Well, for a simple answer, it's going to be yes. But as to the amount of support, it all depends on the financial capacity of the Filipina.
Oh.
So the financial capacity is determined on the property relations or property regime they have as a couple, as a married couple. So that's where the prenup agreement comes into place. If there's no prenup agreement, so we all know, or we've been discussing this in the past, that the properties becomes absolute community, meaning it all becomes conjugal assets. Whatever you've had prior to marriage or during your marriage, then the Filipina owns 50% of which. And that becomes the net worth of the Filipina, which can be the basis for the court to determine the capacity of the Filipina to provide support to her parents.
So, guys, this is a very interesting point. And of course, the Sims will come in and they'll start screaming and hollering because you must never say anything negative about the Philippines or the Filipina. And they'll even try to counter this. They'll call Gracie crazy. This is the life of a simp. This is the life of a simp. Guys, if you go to the Philippines, you do not have a prenuptial agreement. Everything you have as a man now becomes community property in the Philippines. So any assets you have in the United States, those assets now also become her assets. If you don't have a prenup. And of course, this is where it's getting to. And I saw this actually from one of my subscribers. He talked about this, and there it is for you. I know exactly where Gracie is going. So that basically means that whatever the foreigner has, his assets now can become accessible to the Filipinas family. So she can go after the foreigner for his assets. And if he does not pay, he can be arrested and thrown in jail. So it's crazy. And a lot of the Filipinas, they have many siblings. They have their parents, they have their siblings. Gracie, she said the immediate family. I wouldn't surprise me if this possibly even included grandparents. Okay, but we know that he's going to be responsible for taking care of her parents. He's going to be responsible for taking care of her brothers, sisters, and it doesn't even matter if it's half brothers or half sisters. So if his father, for example, or his mother had children from another relationship, that they're no longer even that, it doesn't matter if they're in their lives or not. Those people can now come and say that we want to be provided for. And while she said education, it's the immediate things that they need. So it's not just education. That means that they also have to have a roof over their head. They have to have food, clothing, those things in addition to their education. They have to have the means of pursuing their education. So they have to have money to go to school. They have to have money for food. They don't have a welfare state. They don't have a welfare state in these countries. So what they do is they shift that to the individual. I've heard about a law in China where basically you cannot abandon your parents. And even if you're estranged from your parents in China, your parents can still sue you for support. Even if they put you out and whatever, You are still responsible for taking care of your parents. This is how the state works. This is how the state works. It's a very sick thing because this is their form of the welfare state. Even though they extract wealth and resources from their people, they still shift the responsibility of taking care of one's family back to the individual, even if the family itself does not take care of them. Your family, because keep in mind, it comes down to a person's means. So if your family does not have the means of providing for you, there's nothing that the court can do about that. If you work on yourself, you build yourself up. You walk away from your family, you build yourself up. Now your family can say, okay, hand it over. Okay, we're living in poverty, hand it over. Everything that you work for, we need to get our cut. The Filipina P, if you go over to her Patreon, she's making paper. She's making a crazy amount of money, well over $100,000 a year, well over 100K a year. All right, maybe a couple 100,000 a year. Okay, so she has insane bread right now in the Philippines. And while I don't think her family would come after her in this way, because she's like, I think she built a house for them and she's helping them, she's helping to take care of them. If she stopped providing support for her family, they could go after her in court and they could take a lot of her wealth. And just like, and just vice versa, just if a man marries a Filipina and he does not have a prenuptial agreement, and keep in mind the Philippines is a strange place because they don't have divorce in the Philippines. If you want to end your marriage, you have to go through the church and request an annulment, and that can take a number of years. It's a long and difficult process. So it's a very, very strange thing. And then on top of that, the whole prenuptial agreement thing may not protect you because they can look at the prenuptial agreement and they could say that, oh, this prenup is not fair at all. It basically does not afford the Filipina anything. So if she were to leave you, she's depending on you for everything. And if she were to leave you, yes, it says that, she gets nothing from the relationship, but you would leave her in poverty. So they can throw that prenuptial agreement out, and she could easily argue that she was under duress when she signed it. What's duress? Oh, if I didn't sign it, he wouldn't marry me. And I'm living in poverty. So if I didn't sign it, I would not be able to survive. It's as simple as that. Oh, boops. That's duress right there. Or, oh, I was pregnant when I signed the prenuptial agreement. I was pregnant. I was pregnant and that's just it. And if I didn't sign it, I'd be hungry, homeless, and my baby would be destitute. Me and my child would be destitute. Oh, that's duress. The prenup is no longer valid. So now they're going after. So now the entirety of the estate is on the table. This is the reality. Just because she's fit, feminine, and friendly doesn't mean that she is superior to a woman from Western society. Female nature is universal. And like I've said, there's going to be the Sims who are immediately going to come into the chat, come into the comments, and start going off and saying a Filipino would not do that unless you did something to her. These are the same dudes that were going ballistic when I showed you guys a video, a while back, a Filipina in the United States who was arrested for trying to control alt delete her passport Joe husband, and she was going after him for an insurance policy. And the crazy thing is that you had the Sims immediately pop up in the comments defending her and saying that a Filipino would never do something like that unless he had done something to her. He had to have done something to her because a Filipino would never do that. Guys, they think these Filipinas are above this. These are the same people who were down with the whole believe all women thing. Like the Sims have already destroyed the Philippines. They've already wrecked the Philippines. Let's just make that clear. But that's why MWA is so powerful, because men will just walk away. Just like Western society has become toxic, the Philippines becomes toxic. They will walk away from the Philippines and leave it to the Sims. Leave that damn thing to the Sims. Low value men.
So it's different when we have a prenup, right? And with the prenup, most prenups I've come across, I've drafted for clients, is that all properties prior to marriage remains in a separate property of the foreigner. So in that case, the Filipino actually don't have any significant increase in its assets or its financial capacity. Maybe when the foreigners give some amount of allowance or something to the Filipina, that's the only amount, the increase of her assets or her financial capacity, that's the only amount going to be considered by the court in determining the amount of support to be provided to the parents.
And again, they can only request something that they need. They
Of
cannot
course.
ask like, "Oh, honey, since you married a foreigner, can you please send us to an Alaskan cruise
No.
or go to Havana?"
Well, our provision
Yeah.
specifically mentions indispensable.
Okay, in this
So going to an Alaskan cruise is not indispensable, it's dispensable.
Okay, gotcha. So at least something to, to sustain their living situation. With a Filipina married to a foreigner, guys, you have to brace yourselves. You have to consider that marrying a Filipina, now that we know that it's actually a law that you have to support. The Filipina has to support.
Yeah, and for most Filipinas or for most Filipinos, I don't think they're quite aware of this provision.
I know,
It's
I
just
wasn't-
culturally enshrined with us that we have this moral obligation to give back to our parents. It's a gratitude for them to give back to the things that they are enjoying, the
Right.
sharing it to their family, because I always believe that if you do good things, you get good karma as well. So
Right. I should be getting a lot of that lately, but
hey, you're enjoying it. Don't deny that thing that you're enjoying
Oh
the
my
good karma.
gosh, Mom! Please don't watch this video.
That's why you're speaking in English. Your mother can't understand. I hope so.
I sure hope so. And brothers, don't you dare do the translation. Before marrying a Filipino, obviously you have to have the talk. The financial obligation of the Filipina back to her family, and also how it's going to be once they're together. So we've discussed prenups before.
Yeah.
And the Philippines, we don't have divorce. How does a prenup work here in the Philippines?
Even if we don't have divorce, but we still have the same effect as divorce, which is declaration of nullity and annulment of marriage.
Right.
And prenup is very significant with respect to termination of marriage because it's what governs how assets are to be distributed and liquidated or shared by the spouses. So if there is no prenup at all, then basically you share 50-50. Whatever the guy has, whatever the woman has, they share 50-50.
Right.
But with the prenup, in most cases, assets generated prior to the marriage, because it continues to be the separate property of one of the spouses, and and eventually their marriage didn't work and has to be terminated by way of divorce or by way of annulment of marriage, then the properties will have to be distributed according to what it is in the prenup. So the separate property will continue to be the property of the owning spouse.
Okay.
So the other spouse cannot invoke any right or have any interest on those properties.
Basically, the prenup can safeguard the assets prior to marriage for both parties. It doesn't mean to say that you're not gonna get anything after, because it depends on how the prenup was drawn, right?
Correct. Yes.
The
How
clause-
distribution of properties are agreed by the parties.
That should be part of the protocol, like before getting married, right? I know it's not a law here to have a prenup.
It's still not a norm among Filipinos.
I know.
It's still frowned upon by most families, especially Filipino families. But I also understand why foreigners would really ask for a prenup because, again, when they come to the Philippines and they meet Filipinas, and sometimes Filipinas are so nice in the first place, and,
Yeah,
then
and
they're so romantic in their honeymoon stage of the relationship, and then
They're all
eventually
over
they
you.
change. Especially if you see some Filipinas who, you're just looking for foreigners to hook up to support them, and
Right.
you cannot disregard this percentage of Filipinos who are doing that to survive, right? So for the foreigners, since there's no assurance for them if they've really had a good Filipina that will stay with them no matter what.
Exactly.
So they provide certain protection for themselves because they cannot just, because they're already in the later stage of their lives and they cannot gather again this much asset to
Exactly.
sustain them.
Yeah.
Right? So
They're already
yeah,
like, you know, in that stage of life that they want to just relax, have a good life. This is like their last chance
to enjoy life.
to enjoy life. And you
And you know what's amazing though? There are some Sims, a lot of the Sims who will actually disagree with Gracie and say that, these men are trying to take advantage of the Filipina. And if I've had these idiots in my just a few hours ago, one of these idiots saying that if you marry the right woman, that you don't have to worry about these things. Oh my God. And it's like you could say a million times, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. There's so many guys who married a Christian woman. There's so many guys who did all of these things right, and the simping women will turn around and say, "Well, obviously he did something wrong because if he married the right woman, this wouldn't have happened." And no matter what you say to them, they will lock this down until their lives get destroyed. And a lot of times, some of the men saying this are men who just really they are low value men who just lucked out, because if they were in Western society, they would already have had their lives wrecked, or in some cases, they never would have been able to find a woman in the first place because they would have been called broke boys. Guys, it's a sad reality, but this is the reality that we absolutely live in. And as you can see, guys, men are being arrested if they don't give women the money, give women the money. If they don't hand it over, for example, if you abandon a woman in the Philippines, you can basically be put in jail because and you don't have to be married to her. You do not have to be married to a woman in the Philippines. If she could prove that you were providing support for her, that you were living with her, for example, just like that, you're responsible. You're responsible for providing for the Filipina, regardless if you're married to her or not. So she can actually put you in jail for leaving her in poverty. It's a crazy thing. It's a very, very crazy thing, but it is a reality. And like I said, the Sims have messed up the Philippines. The Sims have messed up the Philippines. Now, don't get me wrong. If you want to find some peace, you can go to the Philippines and you can still find live in the Philippines relatively cheap, and even have some fun. For example, meet a woman over there and sell her a dream, but don't misunderstand. Like it's becoming more and more difficult because of the Sims, the Filipinas. Like I said, this you have these women who were living in a piggery when they meet these foreigners, and the fact is they know that Western women are just being rejected. They know that men in Western society don't want to be in relationships with these women. Women in Western society, they cannot accept the fact that the men are rejecting them. They think that they're like, oh, the reason why you're going over there is because you can't get one of us. They don't understand that the men do not want an American woman. They don't want a Western woman. They don't care how much of a baddie she is. Okay, they're not looking her look. Forget about her looks. Forget about everything else. With these high body counts, bad attitudes, they don't want a relationship with these women. And women in Western society can't understand this. And as a result, the Filipinas, they understand this very well. These men don't want these women over there. So the mental state is shifted where if I'm going to find a woman, it's going to be a foreign woman. And as a result of that, you have women who really come from nothing in the Philippines that realize they can hold out and they can demand more because that's basically because the men are coming over there to get away from women in Western society. So they're like, we have more value than women in Western society, and that's something that women in Western society don't haven't realized yet, that women overseas now have more value than they do in the eyes of a man, of the typical man. But guys, what do you think regarding this? I think that it's only going to continue going in this direction. But more as the Philippines becomes toxic, men will just walk away. By the way, guys, don't forget I have a channel called Angry where I discuss gaming, anime, geek stuff, nerd stuff, real world stuff, and whatever else interests me. There's a link to it in the description of the video. Go and check it out. I've got a lot of great content on there. Subscribe to the channel, support my work. And I also have another channel called Men Walking Away. So I basically discuss on that channel the same content that I discuss on the Angry Guy channel. But so if you're enjoying the content on the Angry Guy channel, and you want even more of this content, head over to the Men Walking Away channel for even more of me, for even more of my content. There's a link to it in the description of the video. Click on the link, check out the content, enjoy the content, subscribe to the channel, support my work. Guys, what do you think regarding this? Men are being arrested for not giving women money. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. And cheers.